Many leaders today are having a huge issue. They don't understand how to communicate their purpose, their vision, and what their actual goals are in a way that their subordinates, their peers, and even themselves understand. However, there is a solution to this problem, and it's actually a lot easier than you might think, because all you really need is a pencil, some paper, and really anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes or more if you have it. And I learned this technique from one of the greatest leaders I've ever been able to work with. Back in the day, I was a young aide-de-camp for a man named Richard Coffman, who rose to the ranks as a lieutenant general in the United States Army.
I picked the Army because I think it's the best service because of its mission. Humans live on the ground, and we're going to fight wars on the ground in tough places that nobody wants to go to.
And he taught me what I will coin the Coffman Method. Now, under this method, you'll be able to understand what it is you're working towards, who is responsible, what does perfection look like, and what is actually acceptable. And by the end of this, you will have a document that you can hand to your team and understand what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and how you guys are going to accomplish it together. So if that interests you, stay tuned. Now, if you're new here, I'm Tyree. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a Christian, and an Army officer. And I've been entrusted with leading in both incredible and some very humbling seasons. Now, I haven't done it perfectly. I've failed, I've adjusted, and I've grown along the way. But if you're on your leadership journey, this is what this channel's about, to help you understand how to answer the leader's call, and you can learn from my mistakes and from others so you don't have to make them yourself. But with that, let's get into it. So the first step of this process is to visualize perfection. And I want you to start by asking, what does perfect company look like for you? Now, what you might start out with is what is good, but that's not what I want. What is better? And that's not either. What is absolutely perfect? Now, this is a great exercise to just close your eyes. Take some time, maybe go on a walk, go on a run, but think about it deeply. And if you can do this, you will truly understand what right looks like for you. Now, this applies not only to the Army standpoint, but this could be a cross-country team. This could be a sales team. So now that you've thought about what perfection looks like, now we're gonna go into the second step. This is where we're gonna identify the performance areas. Now, to do this, you just need a piece of paper. You're gonna draw out 2 vertical lines. That's gonna give you 3 different spaces. So you're gonna have one on the left, the middle, and then on the center. Now, on that left-hand side, I want you to list every category that matters. So in a military standpoint, that might be physical fitness, that might be marksmanship. But in a business standpoint, maybe that's sales numbers or meeting goals. In a cross-country team, maybe that's about practices, it's about effort. This can apply in a bunch of different areas, but I want you to think deeply, what are the performance areas that matters for your organization? Now, as you list them out on the far left-hand side, each metric, you need to also understand how could it be measured and what does perfect look like? So for a physical fitness standard, maybe we're talking about the new Army PT test, and the most possible points is 500. So you would say PT scores, and you would say 500. But maybe sometimes it's something that is a little bit more difficult to measure. So maybe we're talking about a 12-mile ruck march. The standard is 3 hours, but perfection, what is that? It's not obviously 1 minute because that's impossible, but perfection could be everyone is getting 2 hours, which is incredibly difficult to do. Now, on a non-military standpoint, you can look at it as sales goals. So maybe it's 100% closing on every client you interact with. Once again, this is not what is realistic. This is what does perfection look like. Other things to think about, and this is maybe it's some type of team environment. Maybe it's some type of sustainment of the business. Maybe you're trying to measure different aspects of leadership, but you need to understand whatever defines performance in your formation, you also need to think about what is the measurable levers that you could do with it. Now, this third step, going down deeply and making sure that you have a perfection measurement for each of these categories. Think through what would the absolute best performers in here do if there's literally no flaws. So now we're getting into the meat of the exercise. This is where we define acceptable, because you've already, 1, described what the vision is. You've laid out what are the actual metrics that makes a perfect team in your organization. And 3, you've laid out the measurables that actually perfection would look like. But this is the hardest part, is determining what is actually acceptable. You're not looking at what is ideal, you're not looking at what is a fantasy. You're trying to figure out what is the standard that you think is realistically possible. And you need to really interrogate yourself. If you're saying, hey, it's 80%, why not 75 and why not 90? If you're saying that there's or metrics, think deeply, why did you pick that metric? Is it based on an average you've already seen? Is it comparing it to another team? You got to establish this. And that's why I've even added another step to this, because you really need to take time to pause and reassess this. Now, what I would recommend for this is after you've gone through each of these, put it down, come back to it. And I think that's important because it'll prevent any kind of emotional or ego-driven standards. And it gives you that time to really reflect and think through what it is that you're trying to get your team to do. So the next step, and this can be very critical, is to solicit feedback. Maybe if you're in the military, going to your NCO counterpart. Maybe in the business world, you're going to a peer. On a sports team, a co-team captain or the coach. This is the way that you kind of provide what you've already thought through. What are the performance area? What do you consider to be perfection? And what is acceptable? But then what you need to do is close your mouth. Because these personnel, they're gonna have great ideas. They're gonna have different ideas. And they're gonna challenge you in some different ways. But also there's something that they can provide that you can't do completely on your own. And that's identifying your blind spots. So for step 7, you need to add what you missed. So if I mentioned earlier, underneath all of it, you wanna draw a dotted line. Now, the reason why you draw this dotted line is because any of the performance areas that they mentioned that you didn't, you need to list it below here. And everything below that line, these are the things that you're not naturally drawn to. These are your blind spots. And this gives you a tool to quickly go back and reference some of the things that you wouldn't inspect otherwise. Now we go into step 8, assigning the responsibilities. So after you've designed the performance parameters, what is perfection, what is acceptable, you've drawn that dotted line and done the same thing with some other aspects you may not have thought about, which are also going to be typically your blind spots. You're going to draw one more vertical line on the far right, and this is where you're going to assign responsibility. Every area has to get an owner, and the owner doesn't always have to be you as the leader. But this creates a tool that you're allowed to brief the plans to your subordinates and your peers, and it also allows to build accountability in. Each person who's assigned to a different responsibility has the ability to have that conversation up front of what is perfection and what is acceptable. And that way, when you go in, this is almost like a contract of sorts. If you don't have ownership, you won't be able to have execution. So this gives you a tool to make sure that every variable that you and your team determine is important has an owner to help ensure that it reaches those goals. Now, what I love about this, and what I can say is a step 9, you can use this tool in your counseling. Monthly, quarterly, you can ask the question, where are we? Why are we short? Where are we ahead of the plan? And what's our plan moving ahead? This gives you an actual tool to talk to your teammates about something tangible other than, hey, you've been doing good. What does good mean? Or if you're saying, hey, you're not been performing well, this gives you the same type of metrics to point to. That way you can have the emotion out of it and you can just look at the data. And that's what I love about this, because it's able to turn the vision into a living system. And overall, I would say step 10 about all of this is you want to tie it back to the critical path. Everything that you're doing needs to be tied back to what your vision is. What is the purpose? This document should help you build clarity, help you build trust, give you tools for candor in communicating purpose. This is just a tool. It's one of many ways that you can use to communicate your vision, your standards, and how to accomplish those for your team. But one thing I'll also tell you that this isn't just for your subordinates. This is effective for you as well. And I'm gonna give you a few reasons why. One, when you go through this exercise, even if you never share it with anyone, it forces you to define what you actually believe. See, a lot of leaders are gonna say, I want excellence, or I want discipline, or I want readiness, or blah, 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 but that's really all just noise. Doing this exercise forces you to drill down, look at the numbers, the measurable outcomes, and establish clear expectations. And that's something that's important for every leader at any level. The second thing that it does is it actually helps expose your biases. When you share this with others, you get to understand, hey, not only what is above the line is what I think about, but everything below that line, these are the things that did not naturally come to me. These are the things that if I'm not careful, that I can accidentally neglect. A lot of commanders and a lot of leaders, they don't realize what they're ignoring until something fails. So by going through this exercise, it helps you find those blind sides before they become a problem. The third thing that I love about going through this is that it helps you balance ambition with reality. You get the opportunity to define what perfection is. That's kind of like the vision. But when you define what is acceptable, that gives you something more operational, something more useful. And it helps you kind of break that tension. Because many leaders may establish goals that are too high and they're going to lead to burnout or cynicism. If you establish goals that are too low, you're just going to get mediocrity or maybe even drift. But this drill forces you to focus in and calibrate what those things are as you move along the course. The other thing I think I love about this is that it helps you align your whole organization together. When leaders help shape what is acceptable standard, that allows them to own it, but it also allows your employees to own it, to defend it, and to execute it. And that's really the most important part. If you have a vision that no one can understand what the standards are and how to do, it's really just a piece of paper. The fifth reason why I love going through this is that it converts vision into accountability. Most vision statements in general, they just die on PowerPoint slides. But this one, by assigning ownership, giving a tool for briefing and for counselings, it gives you something that can help push the standard a little bit more. It gives you something to use to develop your subordinates, to develop your team, and it goes more than just philosophy. It's operationalizing the leadership that you want to execute. And the sixth reason that I absolutely love this exercise is that it develops you as a leader. This is honestly one of the biggest hitting effects of all of this. Because when you go through this exercise, and I hope that you did, you get to build some self-awareness because it shows you what you're drawn to. It helps you establish a certain sense of discipline in your standards, but it also helps you have some strategic thinking. It gives you the chance to have better counseling conversations, and it gives you a tool to have better decision clarity moving forward. I think all of this can help sharpen your command philosophy into something that is actually measurable and founded in reality. Overall, I think the biggest truth is this helps you become more effective. Because as a leader, I've been in the same boat. Sometimes we're too busy just reacting to the different things that comes out. We become almost like firefighters. And you're trying to figure out a way to communicate your standards that you think that everyone understands, but oftentimes your subordinates can come up short. This exercise helps you choose, it helps you clarify, and it helps you communicate. What are some different ways that you've seen leaders communicate in your organizations before? Let me know in the comments down below, or feel free to shoot me an email, which will be in the description. I thank you guys so much for being a part of this, and if you ever have any leadership questions that I can help you out with, please let me know. Once again, thank you to General Coffman, the man who turned me into the leader that I am today, and giving me this tool to share with you all today. But until next time, check out one of these other videos, and God bless, and peace.